escaping the rat race. And before you go, oh, here we go, another video about someone talking about escaping the rat race, there's a catch, actually. See, in my opinion, it's not just one form of rat race, it's two. Okay? Let me explain. So the first form, which I think most people are familiar with, is the consumeristic rat race. It's when you become someone who cares about materialism, who cares about the perspectives and opinions of other people in an unhealthy way, where you compare your financial and materialistic achievements to theirs, and at the same time you worry about the opinions of others based on your social hierarchical standing. Kind of like the lobster analogy, if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson's work. And if you're familiar with one of my other previous videos, that can look like the standard person who tries to achieve everything by 25, 30 and has a house, husband, wife, 2 kids, dog and a cat, Mercedes and BMW. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. However, I feel like for a lot of people who fit that criteria, the same worries and fears and the drive of comparison is kind of linked to that lifestyle, right? In my opinion. And that's the consumeristic rat race in general. But there's also another form of the rat race, which is, you could say it's the opposite end, but it's just the mirror image of the consumeristic rat race. And that's the bohemian rat race, the alternative rat race, where, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but the image is a person who is a free spirit. Anyway, I consider myself a free spirit in that regard, but yeah, you consider yourself a free spirit. You reject the mainstream narratives, the mainstream societal expectations that has been placed on especially Western civilization. Basically, you reject the majority of the mainstream way of living. But that can also have consequences to it at the same time. On the opposite end of this spectrum, in this rat race, there can also be the dangers of greed, lust, gluttony, excess, right? The lack of responsibility that you may feel adopting this bohemian way of life. And it's very easy to be absorbed into this rat race as well. A lot of it is about, love and peace and harmony and so forth. And you get a lot of these communities in these circles that consider themselves, as a healthy community. However, from my experience anyways, it doesn't seem like a realistic way of living, in my opinion. And I guess it's a subjective debate in that regard, in terms of what people would consider a realistic way of thinking. I guess that does depend on the individual in that sense. But in my opinion, I believe that there is a third way to live, the middle way to live, where you're not going to be absorbed by either of these completely opposite ends of the scale. It is the middle way. And the best way I can describe it is for you as your own individual being to discern for yourself with your own intuition what decisions you will make that will benefit you, yourself, that will help you create the lifestyle that you want and help you to create and develop connections with people who fit into your life with regards to your lifestyle. Not everyone has to be similar to you, of course. But then again, it's down to your discernment as to who you'd like to be in your life and who you'd not want to be in your life. And I could go very much in depth in this video with regards to talking about these two different rat races, these two arms of the same system, which I would call it, and talking about how to live the middle way. But I'm just giving a brief overview of what that would look like for your average individual person. So yes, it's making your own discernment, using your own intuition to decide for yourself what decisions you think would be best to make for yourself, to better your life, to create the lifestyle that you want, to create the career that you want, to find the enjoyment that you want, right? And at the same time, it's not being influenced by people who live on either side, who live in either one of these different rat races, who adopts these two very different but still rather influential styles of living. And that's not me saying that people who live these two very different ways of life are bad people. I'm not saying that at all. However, from my own personal experience, through the way I've lived my life, especially over the last 6-7 years, I've kind of, especially the last month or so, I've come to the realization that you will just get absorbed negatively. You can get absorbed negatively into these two different ways of living if you're not careful. You can either become consumeristic and materialistic in nature and worry about what people think about you and base your happiness and sense of well-being and comfort on what you possess, or you base your happiness, sense of well-being and comfort on how much pleasure you can get out of the different experiences that you would encounter in a bohemian lifestyle. So when you come to the middle way, it's a case of finding that same happiness, sense of well-being and comfort, but you use your discernment, your own intuition, both your intuition and your critical thinking to come to the decisions that you'll make in the future, which will not be influenced by either one of these different lifestyles. And it's an age-old saying, I don't like using it much, but it's true. It's all in moderation as well. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy certain pleasures that you would identify with the bohemian lifestyle. And it's not to say that you can't enjoy some materialistic things that you would identify with the consumeristic lifestyle, but it's all in moderation. And that's where your discernment intuition comes into play, where you have to think to yourself, whatever it may be, you think to yourself, will this serve me going forward? Will this add to my life? Or will it just be another distraction that I'll have to deal with and could potentially give me a headache further down the line? That's what you got to think about, in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, awesome, great. Feel free to like, share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you disagree with some of my points or you just like to ask a question, feel free to post a comment under my YouTube video and I'll be happy to respond. Or if you would like to message me more directly, feel free to go to my Instagram page, StirringTeaInACrazyWorld. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation there too. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Laters.